Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 and 19. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was like this. After his mother Mary was engaged to Joseph, before they came together, she was found pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, being a righteous man and not willing to make her a public example, intended to put her away secretly. Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 and 19. Now, as mentioned, Joseph was a righteous man, and in Jewish culture, being righteous was often shown through how you obey the law and how committed you are to offering justice and mercy to those around you. Now, this is important, and I touch why later on in the blog, so you do have to go read it. But Joseph did not want to tarnish Mary's image, and this is an example of his compassion and mercy, like we talked about. By law, according to Deuteronomy 22, verses 23 and 24, a betrothed woman who was found unfaithful could be stoned. Yet Joseph chose a path that preserved Mary, their future child, and showed the world an example of the character of God. The betrothal was as binding as a marriage is. So think of the engagement. The engagement meant just as much to the marriage as the marriage itself. And it required a formal divorce proceeding to break it. Joseph's willingness to do this quietly was to avoid any public ridicule, any potential punishment. It's showing a way to love one's neighbors according to God's standard. Now, how does this preview Jesus? And that's what I want to talk about in depth today. Joseph's actions here was a great example about how we should treat one another. Now, when we're cheated on, we often feel angry, hurt, and disappointed. We often want revenge. We'll put passive-aggressive posts out on social media, have public arguments, public fights. We want to make that person hurt like we hurt. Joseph didn't want Mary to hurt. Joseph wanted to avoid the humiliation and potential death that Mary would have faced for this situation. Joseph is like Jesus here, taking the compassion of others over the strict adherence to the law. And there's something to be said about that. Sometimes the laws were meant to be avoided. I know, scandalous, but it's true. Laws don't always get updated to meet the current societal standards. People often unnecessarily suffer as a result. So when we are able to check in with those who are suffering and extend compassion to them, we may be able to find a solution that avoids any potential lawful consequence. Joseph's quietness reflects Jesus' ability to look at the heart over the outward appearance. We've talked about this too, how we don't want to make our hurts public. Not about how we often want to make our hurts public, but this time we don't. We'll deal through the tough emotions. We work what we can behind closed doors, and we create this path of peace, compassion, and respect moving forward. Jesus is called our mediator and can help us do that far greater than many other people. And that's just a snippet today about how we talk about the birth story. We're looking at it today from Matthew's perspective. In part one, we looked at it from Luke's perspective, and we found some differences. And I wanted to highlight that. One was what I just talked about, what it meant for Joseph to put her away quietly. We talked about the conversation that happens between the angel and Joseph. We talked about the prophecies that were mentioned here that were fulfilled. We talked about the gifts that were given to the newborn, the frankincense, gold, and myrrh, and what that fully represents. So go check that out today. It's Curious About Christmas Part 2. It's the last time we'll talk about the birth stories themselves. And I hope you enjoy. If you're on YouTube, check the link in the description below. If you're on TikTok, check the link in my bio. And again, your reflection checkpoint, before I forget, says this: society as we see it is not built for many marginalized demographics today. If there was one law that you could create or remove that best represents God's ability to love one another, what would it be and why? Let me know wherever you're reading from, and I will be back tomorrow for Curious About Christmas Part 3. Until then, stay blessed.